Hello there, Ray here, and today I'm going to go over 10 tricks that are in Minecraft that used to work in 1.12 but no longer work in 1.13.2. One of the things I enjoy doing is collecting rare entities, blocks, as well as items in the game of Minecraft, and we do this on the Protect server, which is the survival multiplayer server that I play on. Now, to be able to do this, we have to first understand what actually changes in the game before we can be able to collect something that is going to be rare in a future version or even discontinued altogether. So I put together a list of things that do change between versions 1.12 and 1.13. The goal being that we will go ahead and collect these things on the survival server before upgrading to 1.13. So all these tricks worked in version 1.12.0, and then throughout the upcoming versions, they slowly removed them. So the first one here is the glitch that Lynn as well as Kika discovered while testing out beds underneath of end portals. And what would happen is that when they wake up in the bed, they would be placed directly inside of the end portal, and this would confuse the game and cause the game to crash. This was a pretty nasty bug, and I even did a video about it asking for the developers to fix this. A lot of people misunderstood my video thinking that I was trying to show a malicious bug, and sometimes showing a video is the best way to showcase a bug, so the developers can see what occurs with it. And they actually fixed it very shortly afterwards. I've since reported some other similar bugs to this, but none of them have been fixed yet. So this glitch here only works in versions 1.12.1. This trick also allows you to be able to teleport yourself out pretty far out in the end dimension, as well as go through the bedrock and be placed on top of the bedrock ceiling in the nether dimension. But I did do a separate video all about that, which I'll link down in the description if you're curious. So now in future versions, such as version 1.13.2, if you would hop into a bed and you would sleep away the night, when you wake up, you're directly placed into the end dimension. It doesn't completely crash your game like it used to. The next one on our list is the item duping to do with stacked items. There was a glitch in version 1.12.0 where you could go into a crafting table and drop out items, and then frantically click the crafting output button, and then this will allow the items to come back into your inventory while duplicating them as well as making them being stackable in most cases where they're unstackable. So here you see I have a chest full of diamond chest plates, which are stacked up to stacks of 64. You can do pretty cool stuff with this, as you can even give your own character stacks of 126 armor inside of your armor slots, and also make all types of unstackable items be stackable. And stuff like music discs, when they get unstackable stacks of them, allow you to be able to dupe them when putting them into a jukebox. By having these unstackable, stackable items inside of a chest, you can actually get a comparator with a signal strength of over 800 in survival. But all this was removed in the next version, so this is the only version which you can do this. And I did a separate video about the signal strength, as well as a couple videos showing how you can put these armors on your players, as well as mobs like zombies, and having them being pretty much invulnerable. But in future versions, if you have already acquired these type of items, then you can still use them. Next one is a trick where you can keep a shulker box open even if you're not inside of it with the player. And this is something that Galia and I showed, and I actually use this to make a wither cage. So the way this works is you would stand inside of a portal, open it up, and then you could walk away, and then the shulker box would stay open. And you can even like click into a crafting grid, and then that will allow it to stay up even if you walked farther than like several blocks away from it. But this trick wasn't too useful because if the shulker box would unload, then it would come back down to its smaller form. But the nice thing about having a larger form is that you can have something similar to like a fence, but you can also place this in any direction. You can place this upside down and then to the side, something you can't do with fences. And this also could be used for wireless redstone, as if you would open up your inventory and then close it, it would also close it. And it did make a pretty cool wither cage. This trick only works up to version 1.12.0. Now if you try to do this trick in future versions, you can see that it immediately closes afterwards. This next trick here was a trick to try to overcome a problem that players had when they would stand on a solid block of dirt and then they would hoe it. A lot of times they would end up clipping into the block, and to try to overcome it, they actually introduced another bug, which is if you would have a farmland that you would place inside of an entity, and then once that farmland would turn back into dirt, it would cause the entity inside of it to move upwards. And this was their fix try to avoid the player from falling down inside of the farmland when doing the hoeing. So if I increase the random ticks, you'll see this farmland will turn into dirt, and it'll cause both the armor stand as well as the llama to clip up inside of the bedrock. So now once they're inside the bedrock, you can actually use the pistol underneath to push them upwards. Now you got the llama as well as the armor stand clipped through the bedrock. This is a cool way to actually get the player to clip through the bedrock and get on top of the bedrock ceiling, as well as placing entities inside of really weird positions, such as inside of a bedrock formation that you normally can't do. Now it is possible to stick different types of entities inside of immovable blocks, such as you can stick like an armor stand inside of obsidian just by making lava turn into obsidian, or you can have a curved rail beside an immovable block, and then you can place a minecart on it and then push it inside of it. And then you can always break the minecart and cause whatever's riding it to fall inside of the bedrock. But armor stands cannot actually be placed inside of a minecart, and this is a bug all in itself. Now this bug was removed after versions 1.12.1, but then was reintroduced in the 1.13 version, so it is currently in the full release version of 1.12.2, so you could use this if you want to, and acquire a weird looking armor stand that's sitting partly inside of your bedrock nether ceiling. Now this same type of property of pushing the player up used to also be present in sea pickles during the snapshots, but they eventually removed it. What you could do is stand on 3 sea pickles, and then when you place a fourth one, it slightly moves you up. But then they later changed it so that you would not be able to place in the fourth one until your hitbox no longer collided with the future area of the fourth pickle. Next one on the list is a kind of a goofy looking one. This was showed to me by KK. What you do is that you have a stair which is on its side, like this one here, then you have a block, which is a block that you're not normally able to place ladders up against. And then if you would click on this type of block, it would place the ladder on the opposite side of this. So you end up with this glitched ladder, which has no block behind it. So then you end up with this ladder that has no block behind it. And a lot of people wonder if you can climb up the back side of a ladder, and no, you can't. So if I press on this side, you can't climb it, but I can still climb this, even though there's no block behind it. This one's kind of funny because it likes to happen in the south direction. It's really picky. It needs to have the stair facing this direction or in the other direction. Here you can see some other examples. Here, this is a floating one. Here's the ladder is placed up against the glass because it doesn't know where to place it. So it ends up placing up against glass. Here you got it placing up against the side of the stair. But in all cases, it's always facing towards the south direction. And this was available in version 1.12.0. Next one on the list is a change they made to vines. So essentially vines could be placed on side of blocks, but then they made this weird change that if there was a block above the vine, which the vine cannot connect onto, then it would just remove the entire vine. And a lot of people got really annoyed by this. So something like a block like this, where the vine can actually touch this side over here, it would work. But if you would come in with anything like a ladder, then it would just remove the entire vine. Now they came up with this in 1.11 versions, then it was reverted back in 1.13. So now in 1.13.2, the full release, you're able to place these vines back into these type of situations, which is really nice because it's really annoying to have these type of vines just completely vanishing. Next one here is Ender Crystal Bedrock Breaking. This is something I showed quite a while ago, where you could use Ender Crystals and push them into blocks and allow them to break bedrock. And it's kind of funny because it only really works in End Dimension, so there's not that much bedrock you could break with it, but it is useful in many cases, such as in the farm that Command Block guy Smokey and I did, where we could make infinite amounts of endstone using a different trick that we discovered to do with Gateway Pearls and End Dimension. And Smokey even came out with a version where you can produce over 1 million endstone per hour, which is pretty insane. But in that machine that we designed, it actually uses ender crystals to break the bedrock that goes with the gateway pearls. If you haven't seen that video already, I highly recommend watching it. But this type of bedrock breaking is removed, and the last version you can use it in is in 1.12.2, so you can't use it in future versions. Now what does happen in future versions, if there would be a block inside the same area as that fire block we see there, I'm just going to place a block there using command, you'll see that the block is placed there and it's not replaced with the fire block like it used to be. So you're not able to destroy any blocks with this. Next on our list is another bedrock break method that I discovered while making a 1.8 sand generator, which has to do with dragon eggs dropping them in lazy processing chunks and them being able to replace other blocks. Now this is also removed in versions 1.13. This is the primary way that on Protec how we're removing large amounts of bedrock for our perimeters. So we'll continue to use this method until we upgrade to 1.13. Next up is a different type of bedrock breaking method with headless pistons. I showed this quite a while ago with different variations of being able to break the head of the piston, as well as Myron Uri also showed some pretty cool methods of removing the head to break bedrock, and also using this to be able to rotate it into different directions. This has changed in versions 1.13, but it's still possible to break bedrock using different variations of this method. But the old methods have changed a little bit, and I can show you a little example of this. Here we got is a sticky piston, and then in front of it we got a piece of bedrock as well as a piece of glass. Now in version 1.12, if we were to remove this redstone block here, you can see it actually pulls the block that was in front of it over here and replaces the bedrock. Now we're in versions 1.13 and we got the same kind of setup. What will happen here is when we remove the redstone block here, you can see that the head of the piston retracts, but it doesn't bring this block into this location. Now if this block was gone, then it would actually remove this bedrock, which is kind of strange. Now you're curious about some methods of breaking bedrock that are still possible in 1.13.2. I'll put some links down to description of example as well as Myron Aereo, as well as some old methods that still exist throughout the versions. Next cool trick that can no longer be done in versions 1.13 is this one here. In this one here you have different types of blocks which normally need a supporting block connected to a stair that is on side. The way you do this is by taking a stair and hooking it up to another one where it turns sideways, and then coming in and placing down the blocks that you want to connect to it. So I can even come in and use something like a redstone torch, and then that will hook onto it. Then you can go ahead and remove this. This will cause the block to be connected to the side like this. And KK showed me this method. The cool thing about this, if you would update this torch, it's no longer in a proper state and therefore it would pop off. And you can use this to make budded redstone dust that's turned on. So once it's updated, it will pop off. And we actually use this to test one of Theosub's redstone changes. So he was trying to make redstone not so laggy. So he made some tweaks to the redstone code and he wanted to test some situations where he thought it could break. And we actually used this technique here to test it. And he found it actually to be extremely stable. So hopefully we'll see his variation of the redstone changes in future versions of 1.14. Now, if you're curious about any of these methods that I showed here, I'll put links down to videos that go into more depth about how these things work and cool things you can do with these different types of tricks. As well, I will also be putting out a second part of this video, part 2, and maybe even part 3, because I got quite a few other things I would like to show you guys. And if there's something that you notice that is different in 1.13 than it is in 1.12, please tell me down in the comments. I'll try to add it into the next parts of this video. I'm excited to add these type of rares onto the Protect server to go with all the other rares we collected since versions 1.7, as well as look forward to the second part of this video where we'll cover more changes between versions 1.12 and 1.13. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and if you found this video interesting, give it a like as well as share it with others. If you'd like to see more technical survival Minecraft videos like this, be sure to go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell button to get notifications. And if you think there's something I missed, tell me down in the comments. Bye bye!